The first official batch of Modern Horizons 2 spoilers have just been released, and I have to say, one of these cards is so insane that I genuinely looked at it and went, shouldn't this be printed in silver bordered? Shouldn't this be like a joke uncard? It's crazy.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, it is Friday. We are here to have a glorious time looking at some brand new cards that are coming in Modern Horizons 2. And I have to say, Wizards of the Coast is really surprising me with a number of choices that they've made for this set. And it's shaping up to look pretty nutty. So, starting out, the first spoiler we have is something we actually talked about in a previous video where I said that it was likely that Counterspell was going to be in Modern Horizons because we got like an unofficial leak. But there was a bunch of people who said, nah, I don't really see Counterspell being put in Modern Horizons because this makes Counterspell legal in Modern Horizons and kind of sets the tone for the level of countering, right? I mean, 2 blue mana to hard counter a spell. The only thing that's really more crazy than that off the top, aside from things like Force of Will, would be mana drain, right? So this sets the standard for countering in Modern pretty high. And it also gives you an idea of how Wizards is viewing the concept of Modern Horizons. Modern Horizons is meant to get in there and shake the tree. Whatever is going on with the format, they want to make some big sweeping changes and get people interested in picking up Modern Horizons. Now, let's be real. Counterspell being included in Modern Horizons, there's tons of copies of Counterspell floating out there in the world. So it's not like just the fact that Counterspell is in Modern Horizons is going to drive sales of the set. But regardless, you can see Counterspell straightforward, 2 blue instant, counter target spell. It's very elegant in terms of boom. It's just 3 words. The name is perfect. Like, this is essentially a perfect Magic card. And in the artwork, you can see a guy going, check out my magical hula hoop. He's somehow levitating up in the air going, ho-ha, and making the magic fly outwards. So I'm not 100% if the artwork is supposed to be showing this guy like blasting magic out of him that is countering something, or if he's literally trying to like fly up in the air and the spell is being countered, because the top of the guy is all glowing in blue, but his legs aren't covered in that glow. So it does make me wonder exactly what the idea behind this artwork is. But Wizards of the Coast looked at it and then said, oh, you want to do the sparkle shoot counter spell? Well, let me show you the souped up version of it. So here's the extended border version. And in this one, you can see it's got even more crazy lines flowing out. It's almost like that old anything you can do, I can do better. So this counter spell is like, check it out. Look what I do. And it's interesting to note that this printing is uncommon. And this printing is rare because this is the extended border version. And I have to admit, I'm not a big fan of when they do this. When they take a card that's printed at uncommon in a set and then just go, we put a rare symbol on this version. So this is the extended border. It does look cooler than the previous counterspell. I don't know if she's supposed to be the nexus of this gigantic locus of energy, or if this is supposed to be like when you watch an anime and an enemy slams these giant boulders together around a guy, and then you're like, wait for it, and the guy goes, hurrah! And the rock bits go flying in every direction. So I don't know, because you have like a sphere kind of situation around her, I don't know if it was like a bubble of magic that was enclosing in on her, and she went, I don't think so, Dragon Ball yell, ha-ha! And like send the magic counter blasting out like that. But either way, it is definitely some really nice looking artwork. I gotta be real. So Counterspell is the first reprint that we're gonna see in this set. Next up, we're gonna be looking at something brand new. This is Brainstorm. All right, so Brainstorm is 1 mana. It's an artifact. It says 2 and tap it, sacrifice Brainstorm, draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. The flavor text says, one day it might provide a flash of insight that turns the tide of battle. Meanwhile, it looks lovely on an end table. No, it does not. I want to say that right now. This card is cool as a concept, and we'll talk more about that. But this flavor text makes me go, no, 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 no. This doesn't look lovely on an end table. Look at the artwork. This looks like a clay nightmare. This looks like something you would make in like grade school, right? Where they give you that lumpy clay and you paint it all up and then they put it in the kiln and you bring a lump home and your dad's like, oh nice, what is this, an ashtray? And you're like, no, it's a pony, daddy. Don't put your cigarettes out on the pony. So it's like that. It's lumpy, it's misshapen, it's all eyes. It's got multiple eyes and nose running across it with a mouth that's running along the inside. You've got like light emanating out of the tired looking old eyes and the nostrils are all flared and its mouth is like, and like it's got the line right through it. That's not lovely on an end table. If I saw this on somebody's end table, I would assume they were a serial killer. This is not a lovely card, but it is definitely a cool concept because this is playing off of Brainstorm. Brainstorm is an instant that lets you draw 3 cards and put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library. So this is essentially Brainstorm magic encapsulated in an artifact that you can open up and have that brainstorm. Although I don't know if I want something that looks like this having any effect on my brain. I gotta be real. Though it probably looks pretty cool when you sacrifice and activate it. Maybe the mouth opens up and starts screaming. Ah! I don't know. Either way, this is a cool card. And this is going to be used to illustrate to you one of the cool things that they're doing with Modern Horizons. Because check this out. Bam! Old school frames. Remember a few days ago when I talked about Wizards of the Coast surveys and how they were like, how do you feel about brand new cards in old frames? Well, they're already here. This is the kind of treatment that we're going to see with multiple cards. And I have to admit, as an old school Magic boy, I definitely like the old school frame. So for me, that's a thumbs up maneuver. Now, let's move on to the next nostalgic callback. That's Diamond Lion, all right? So, Diamond Lion is a play on Lion's Eye Diamond. This is a 2 casting cost artifact cat. 2/2. Tap it, discard your hand, sacrifice Diamond Lion, add 3 mana of any one color. Activate only as an instant. So, it does pretty much the same thing as a Lion's Eye Diamond. Now, admittedly, it doesn't come out for free, and it does have summoning sickness. So let's not try and pretend that this is on the same power level exactly, but it definitely is an interesting callback. You can see the artwork clearly depicts a lion made entirely out of diamond. That's pretty amazing. The flavor text says, the merchant asked for riches no one had ever dreamed of. The djinn smiling granted his wish. And it makes you wonder, you know what I mean? If you think of like wish granting beings, sometimes they're a little bit malicious. They don't enjoy the fact that they have been like, I've been enslaved to this lamp and I have to grant wishes. So I'm going to grant the wishes, but ultimately those wishes will turn out to be bad for you, right? So is this a scenario where the djinn smiled and was like, I'll give you this diamond lion. I'll give you riches that no one's ever dreamed of. And then it's like, here you go. It's diamond, but it's alive and it can tear you apart, right? Because a merchant's only going to be like 1/1 or 0/1, because that's the size of most humans. This thing's 2/2. It could easily eat you or destroy you. And I mean, if you want to gain the true riches out of it, you have to break the lion down, break it apart. Or maybe the djinn was smiling because it's like, here you go. Here's riches you've never dreamed of. And the merchant's just like, yeah, check out my cool diamond lion. Not knowing that any planeswalker that someday stumbles across his plane is totally going to take the diamond lion away. It's like, no. This is mine. You don't get to have this, right? Like, it's a funky concept overall. Honestly, I don't know how insanely powerful this card will be because, like I said, Lion's Eye Diamond exists and is way better. But this is another card that they gave the old frame treatment to, and it looks pretty solid. Now, let us move on to the next thing we have to talk about. And here's where this is the card that I said when I first saw it, my brain went, wait a minute. Shouldn't this be like a silver bordered uncard? So this is Urzas Saga. All right. Now, this is funny to me because Urzas Saga is the name of an old school Magic set. If you've ever seen the expansion symbol where it looks like it's geared, you know what I mean? That's Urzas Saga. So there's a set called Urzas Saga, and there's a card called Urzas Saga. So Urzas Saga is in Modern Horizons, and hearing that, my brain just wants to rebel because it's like, no, Urzas Saga was a set from the mid-90s. How could an entire set from the mid-90s be in a Modern Horizon set. But regardless, that's not what makes the card seem crazy. That's just a little bit of weird icing on the cake. I'll be real. I'm a massive Urza fanboy. So any cards that mention Urza for me are like, yeah, keep it coming. Keep them coming. If you haven't checked it out already, I have a bunch of awesome Urza lore over on the Fantasy Geographic channel. And I'm currently working on the final installment of the Time Stream Chronicles, which is just, it's such an epic conclusion. Urza is so amazing. So this is a very weird card. So before we talk about the abilities, let's look all the way down at the bottom. This is an enchantment land, okay? It's an enchantment land dash Urzas Saga. That part is part of what makes me go, wait, what? How can its type be like Urzas Saga? I still can't wrap my head around the idea of the Urzas Saga part being on the type line. The fact that it's an enchantment land as well. So it's an enchantment land. It's called Urzas Saga. It's got the type Urzas Saga. It doesn't inherently have the ability to tap for any mana. It gains the ability to tap for mana when it enters the battlefield. So as it enters the battlefield, it gains the ability tap to add a colorless mana. So this is an enchantment land that taps to add a colorless mana, but it's a land that's only going to be around for 3 turns, because how sagas work is after you do the last step, you sacrifice it. It's right there in the description at the top where it says, as a saga enters and after your draw step, add a lore counter, sacrifice after 3. So this is a land you only get for 3 turns, which is a really weird feel. The original ability gives it tap to add a colorless mana. That makes perfect sense. Urza was an ancient artificer before he even became a planeswalker, right? And so he was studying artifacts. I mean, he wasn't like a super old man, but I just mean he was an artificer a long, long time ago and partially an archaeologist, right? So him tapping, like the saga tapping for colorless mana fits flavor-wise. The second stage of the saga is Urzas Saga gains the ability to untap, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Now you could consider this actually the original conception of like Tarn, because it's essentially like a Beast of Burden ability, right? There is a old artifact creature called Beast of Burden that is literally exactly this. It's a construct artifact creature that has power and toughness equal to the number of artifacts you control, right? And Karn was built out of these Beasts of Burden. So this is like the precursor to Karn, his initial experimentation in creating constructs, which is pretty amazing. And then the third step is search your library for an artifact card with mana cost 0 or 1, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So you're going to lose your land on the third step, but you're going to be able to go and get something crazy with it, right? I mean, there's a number of different moxes that exist within Modern that cost 0. So there's a bunch of different things you can grab with this, but it's a really, really odd card. A land that's only going to stick around for 3 turns kind of blows my mind. And this stepping up of abilities is so funky, right? Like, it's just such a strange thing. And if you have ways to remove counters, you could theoretically keep this card around forever if you wanted to. And then the artwork, oh man, I love it. You've got this crazy massive diagram in the background, right? Maybe of like a number of Urza's different inventions, but he's standing there. It's got what is the name? I can't remember the name of what I'm trying to reference, so I'll just put that to the side. But it's like the old, I think it was like Da Vinci or whatever, and there's like a drawing of a man, and then there's all these lines radiating out of it. But it's got that kind of a vibe, right? You have Urza with his hand extended upwards. There's power emanating from his hand, and it's like racing out in different lines. Maybe this represents Urza's touch, like his influence on a number of different things. Because you see down in the bottom right-hand corner what actually looks like maybe schematics for the Weatherlight's wings, and you can see him holding his staff, but it looks like it's schematics for that as well. Dude, it's just, there's so much going on in this artwork, and I really, really dig it. And what's even cooler is this. Take a look at this. This is the sketch edition of the card. So I don't know if this is what the showcase versions are going to be, or if only Urzas Saga got this treatment, but I suspect that this is the treatment, this is the special showcase treatment we're going to see for Modern Horizons. And you can see it's the same card with some minor differences, right? Like if you take a look at this one and you take a look at where the 1, 2, 3 are located, and then you take a look at this one, you can see it's got an older, like kind of worn wood vibe. And another big difference to me is the way they've chosen to do the rarity symbol. So the rarity symbol has gold on it, but it's more like it's smeared outside the border. So this is supposed to be a rough sketch version of the card. And as a concept, I find that to be really, really cool. I am down with this. The next thing we have to talk about is Sanctum Prelit. So this is the buy a box promo. This card won't be available in the booster packs, I don't think, but I'm not 100% sure because they've gone back and forth about buy a box being in the set and buy a box not being in the set. But from what I've seen, this won't be available unless you buy a box and get the promo. So it's 2 white and 1 for a 2/2 human cleric. As it enters the battlefield, choose a number. Non-creature spells with mana value equal to the chosen number can't be cast. The flavor text says, this area is off limits to you. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward, nah, you can't do that rule-setting style white card. This is the first time that we're seeing it in this old school border. And for me, man, going back and pulling these old school borders, it's massively sweet. I like having the option. I like that you can either go, all right, I'm going to have a modern border version, or I'm going to go with this old school version. And you may have noticed as well, there's a shooting star on that, and that's because this is going to be a foil. And old school Magic foils had a giant shooting star on them. So there's a fair bit of nostalgia here, and this is a really solid card. I like the way it shows the Sanctum Prelit is kind of like lighting up the darkness. You know, she's got the staff extended forward, the hand and a gesture of you shall not pass. You know, it's a pretty solid card. The next thing we're going to talk about, super juicy. Super juicy. We have the Fetchlands. So the Fetchlands are being brought back for the enemy colors for Modern Horizons, and we're getting multiple treatments of them, all right? So we're not only getting regular printings, we're also getting old school border printings like this, and on top of that, also getting extended bordered versions of the Fetchlands. So all 5 of the enemy Fetchlands are here in 3 different variations. So this is the Arid Mesa. If you're not familiar with Fetchlands, that's pretty amazing to me, but we'll go over it anyways. It's a land. You pay 1 life and sacrifice the land. You search your library. In this case, the Arid Mesa searches for a mountain or a plains, and then you put it onto the battlefield. So this is an incredibly potent card. It fixes your mana in multiple ways, right? Even if you look at it from the most basic of concepts, it will allow you to go get a basic mountain or a basic plains, bring it into play untapped. So it not only fixes your mana, but it also thins your deck out. Every time you use one of these, you're grabbing a land out of your deck and putting it into play, which decreases the chances that you're going to draw lands off the top of your deck, which increases the chances that you're going to draw more useful cards, right? And it can just be used to shuffle your deck too if you want to change what's on top of your deck. Let's say you use the Brainstorm and you have cards on top of your deck that you don't want there. Boom, use one of these, it's gone. Like, these fit in so many ways, and they dovetail amazingly with things like the original dual lands, although that's not in Modern. In Modern, they go very, very well with shock lands because the shock lands have both land types, and Arid Mesa doesn't put the lands into play tapped, so when you grab a shock land, you can choose whether you're going to put it into play tapped or take the 2, so ultimately, there's a ton of versatility here. The artwork on this Arid Mesa looks pretty sweet. Let us move on to the next fetch land, which is Marsh Flats. And by the way, the artwork that is being shown on this version is the artwork you'll see on every version. So the regular version, the extended version, the old border version, all have the same borders, all right? So this is Marsh Flats. This is the same thing, but for plains or swamps. Then we have Misty Rainforest, which is the same thing for green and blue, for forests and islands. And honestly, I find the artwork in this one to be nice and inviting. This looks like a humid jungle, right? It makes sense. You got a lot of concentration of water in there, and as a result, like with the canopies kind of over crush, it creates like a similar kind of effect to a greenhouse a bit, where you've got all this moisture hot and trapped inside the trees, and it just gives them the ability to grow gigantic and powerful. I don't know, man. I like the vibe of Misty Rainforest, and this is like the top dog when it comes to Fetchlands. If you crack this, this is the absolute best one. The most desired one, all right? And the final one is Scalding Tarn, which is the red-blue one. It's pretty crazy looking. You got a volcano going on in the background. This is your mountain and island setup, although I'll admit, looking at it, I don't see... This just looks like a red land to me. I don't know about you guys, but it totally looks like just a red land to me. And if I'm not mistaken, that is... Oh, sorry, there's one more. Verdant Catacomb. Apparently, I can't count. There's 5 lands. Verdant Catacomb. So, green-black, this is your swamp or forest. This doesn't feel terribly verdant to me. It definitely has kind of a catacomb rot kind of feel to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, compare it to the Misty Rainforest. This is kind of dark and foreboding, and it looks like it's not full of life, even though I guess the idea is supposed to be that it's all these, like, hanging, gross, clingy vines. I don't know. But, you know what? It's all right. It looks pretty good. Then, yeah, okay, so that ends off all the cards we have to talk about. My friends, if you want to see some old school Magic the Gathering action, come on over to my other channel. Check out the Chandelar gameplay. We're having a great time over there. I live streamed there again today, so it's been 3 days in a row. There are multiple installments for you to watch, things that I got hammered yesterday, and I don't mean the kind from drinking. I mean, I got elbow dropped by the computer. It fed it to me. So, come on by. I'll leave a link here at the end. Thanks for coming. I'll see you guys tomorrow for some crazy... Tomorrow, you're not even going to believe what we talk about. See you then.